Hello, everybody. Brian Engelman here on the Unhappy Hour, the TNAM Network, the New American Media. We are going to talk sports today. I don't know. I don't know how much of the other interesting stuff we get into. Greg Popovich in the news today, and of course, players are having meetings all over the place. The Cleveland Browns are at the front and center of this. The Cavaliers are at the front and center of this. Um, Politics has never blended more completely into sports than it is right now. And we're living through it. And as Cleveland sports fans of the Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeyes, obviously we may need to talk about it from time to time. But the main topics today are to cover the Cleveland Browns' embarrassing loss to the Houston Texans. Kevin Hogan got the start. Kizer was benched the whole game. We can talk about that a little bit and kind of how the rest of the season is stacking up and what the game plan is and the patience we're going to have for this franchise moving forward. I kind of tend to think that if you're going to do a full rebuild, give it 3 years. Give it 3 years to tank out the contracts, rebuild the base how you want it, and then launch. And that's kind of what they're doing. They keep passing on quarterbacks, and maybe third year's the charm. You go get them in the first round. So we'll see how that goes. But of course, tonight is going to be the Cavaliers versus the Celtics. Kyrie Irving in Celtic green. This is weird. I don't like it. I don't love it, but it is what it is. And it's these storylines that make the NBA, the adult soap opera that it is, professional sports in general, has maybe become more WWE style entertainment and less about sports as they merge into politics and pop culture and all of that. So anyway, without further ado, I'll get to Zak Baris. Zak, you've been joining our show for a long time. I wanted to say thank you for all of the previous Browns rap shows and NBA shows you have done with us. So thanks for coming back again.
Anytime, Brian. It's been almost 7 years now.
Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
No, I still remember our first show. I think you found me on Twitter when I was discussing potential Baron Davis trade to the Cavs for Mo Williams. I think at the time, our first show discussed, what eventually became the Kyrie Irving pick, if I'm not mistaken. That was close to one of our first shows. You contacted me randomly on Twitter after I had been tweeting about it, and then it was, okay, we went from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, social media is a funny thing. You build groups, you build communities, and the more that you enjoy going back to those communities, the more you get out of the interactions. And I think social media can be a weird place sometimes, but I really like what the Unhappy Hours turned into over the years. And I feel like the warm-up might be over. I feel like it might be time to really take this thing to another level. But it's been an interesting ride, and for the new people just tuning in, you can go back and find like 5, 6, almost 7 years of show content with Zak and I just talking about the NBA and anything Cleveland sports or sports in general. So let's do this first part here talking about the Cleveland Browns. We saw Deshaun Watson shining on the field, and we saw DeShone Kizer on the bench for the Browns. Where do we start with this one?
They are pathetic, Brian. I can tell you Sunday was the first game in a long time where I was over in Ohio City watching the game, met up with a couple friends, couple girls, and then it was like to the point where I was barely even paying attention during the game, and then as soon as halftime hit, I was like, went over to Edgewater Park, and I didn't even turn the Browns game on the radio for the second half, and I was gone, came back in the middle of the fourth quarter, and I said, I just don't care anymore. Like, it's too hard to watch. They stink. I don't think I've ever really hit my breaking point that soon in a game. I mean, I have when I've been at games but I'm saying this early in the season, I was just like, you know what? This isn't worth my time. They stink. I said, I'm not going to sit here and piss away my time on a Sunday afternoon when it's 80 degrees outside doing this.
Well, honestly, I think Cleveland fans are in a different situation that a lot of the country is, because I'm seeing some reports that ratings are down as much as 10%, and I obviously have to do a little bit more research and make sure I'm quoting accurate data, but there has pretty much been a call to stop watching the NFL if the players are going to spend so much of their time disrespecting what this country stands for. with the flag protests, and the Cleveland Browns are at the center of that. But here, let me make this other point though, Zach. I was going to say also that we're in a unique position, at least as far as giving up watching on Sunday with the Texans, because one, we own their draft picks. So if we win, it hurts us. If we lose, it helps us. And so we have an additional reason to not care on top of the product sucking.
Brian, here's the thing. No matter what, you're a loser in that wherever you go. Because if the Browns win, our pick is lower, and if the Texans win, their pick is lower. So either way, it doesn't help us, no matter who we play. So, if we play the Texans. Either way, one of those teams is going to win, and the draft pick's going to go down. It just might not be our pick. It might be the Texans' pick.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we own the Texans' their first rounder and their second round pick. The Texans, seemingly have a top 5 quarterback in the league in Deshaun Watson. The Browns have, I can't put Dak Prescott in the conversation that they passed on Dak because 32 teams, including the Dallas Cowboys, passed on Dak Prescott at least 3 times.
Right.
Don't forget he was a 4th round pick. So, and they had a gem, they had a diamond in the rough there. So you can't say the Browns passed on Dak Prescott, because again, he came out of nowhere. It's not like he was a 1st round pick, a top 10 talent. That's not how it was.
Well, let's see how good Dak Prescott is if Zeke Elliott's out for 6 weeks. Let's see what happens.
But let's not forget the Browns passed on Derek Carr a few years ago to take Johnny Football. They passed on, to take Billy, then they passed on Carson Wentz last year. They passed on Deshaun Watson this year. They passed on Malik Hooker. It's just like, here's the problem. They don't have a football mind in the front office. It's great that they're accumulating draft picks. However, the problem is if you look at these teams in the NFL, teams like the Patriots can stockpile talent at the end of the 1st round because they have superstars like Tom Brady already. The Browns don't have any top-tier talent other than Myles Garrett at this point and Joe Thomas. And Myles Garrett clearly is a top-tier talent. He's got 3 sacks for 2 weeks. He's dominating. He looks great. However, the fact is you have very little other talent in this football team. You've got 5 picks in the first 2 rounds. Next year, you can't afford to screw it up again. They've screwed this up too many times. You've got to go out and get your quarterback already. This is getting ridiculous. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have any, apparently this regime valued receivers more than anything. I can't even tell you who our receivers are anymore at this point.
I don't
That's
really.
how bad it is.
Yeah, I know. It's a rotating door at the wide receiver position. Josh Gordon, as far as I know, still hasn't even applied for reinstatement. I don't understand what's going on there, unless he's just trying to do it.
He was staying in my building last week, but I was right. He was here to visit his daughter.
Okay.
And that's I was right about it when I saw it. I saw him picking up his daughter from a car outside of my building, so it had nothing to do with him being in town for reinstatement.
Yeah, but you're right.
Seeing his daughter.
This team is, I'll give him a pass on 2 injuries on Corey Coleman. If we get to a 3rd, then he's just made of glass, and it is what it is. But a lot of players get hurt, early into their careers. Kyrie Irving did the same thing. But anyway,
yeah.
They went up and picked who they felt was their number 1 playmaker last year out of Baylor with Corey Coleman.
And when he was healthy, he was good last year. The problem is he's just never healthy. And, the thing is, too, the Browns literally cannot develop talent. Passing on a guy like Deshaun Watson now just makes it look even worse because he's having such a great season.
Yeah, that's true. But he wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't locked in that Deshaun Watson was going to be an NFL-worthy player. There was a lot of question about him coming in.
No, there were tons. But, however, he threw a lot of picks this year. But, the Browns don't have a choice this year. They have to get it right. They have to hit on the quarterback position. Whether it's Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, I don't know if they're, again, we see this every year. Like, going into the year, there looks like there's always going to be 5 or 6 first-round quarterbacks. And then it comes down to it, and it looks like there's, no one's worthy of the first round. Like, nobody's playing that well. However, I still think Darnold is the key here and is the best quarterback in this class. And the Browns need to get it right. They don't have a choice anymore. If I'm the Browns, I go and give, they need to hire someone with a football mind, to come in here and run this franchise. It's not fair to the fan base anymore. We're sitting here and we've lost, we've won 1 game out of our last 22. Brian, I was at our last road win over 2 years ago in Baltimore. I was at the game.
Jeez. This is an incredible stretch. Well, hold on. Let me address a couple
would,
things that you said there. You mentioned a football mind, and I can't help but think of Mike Holmgren coming in with his Tommy Bahama T-shirts, and then two about our inability to develop talent. We did get Josh Gordon out of the supplemental draft, and when he was eligible, he was great, and we turned Terrell Pryor in from a quarterback into a 1,000-yard receiver. So we do have the ability to get people paid.
They chose not to keep Terrell Pryor. The
That's true.
Also retaining the talent. I mean, Brian, here's another thing. Let's look at this too. They've had guys. Imagine having a wide receiving core now with Terrell Pryor, Travis Benjamin, and Taylor Gabriel in it. You've got yourself a pretty, formidable receiving group right there. And instead, they've let Taylor Gabriel. They cut Taylor Gabriel to keep some crappy rookies. They cut Taylor Gabriel to keep some crappy rookies. They let Travis Benjamin walk in free agency. They let Terrell Pryor walk in free agency. They've essentially replaced those guys with idiots like Dwayne Bowe and Kenny Britt.
Wow.
It's getting to a point now where you can't even retain your own talent. They've let guys like, Tashawn Gibson walk. It's Craig Robertson who's having a good year in New Orleans. I mean, it's just, you keep letting these guys walk who have talent, and if you can't retain your own talent, they let Mitchell Schwartz go. They've let Alex Mack go. You've let all your top-tier talent go, so what's the point of even having these draft picks at that point? You can't retain them when they're in their prime anyway. They stink. They're always going to stink because they can't retain their top tier. Look at teams like, you look at good teams, and they all retain their top tier talent they draft. So they don't need to go out and sign free agents like the Browns do. I mean, that's the problem. We've let all of our stars walk. Mitchell Schwartz having a great year in Kansas City. Alex Mack having a great year in Atlanta was arguably the key piece to Atlanta last year to their offensive line being able to protect Matt Ryan, him having an MVP season.
Right.
The Browns can't do anything. Look how good Taylor Gabriel was. Look how good Travis Benjamin was. I mean, we can just go into this, and the Browns can't do anything. They can't do anything correctly, and it's a problem. When you can't do anything correctly, you're never going to win football games, and this team isn't anywhere close to becoming a good team. They played Jarrell Peppers 30 yards off the ball. He has no chance of doing anything, and he's not having a good season. And they could have had Malik Hooker, who I know gave up a big touchdown last night, but has been fantastic otherwise this season.
Well, what are the Browns supposed to do at quarterback? Let's focus back in on that. They tried the Hulk Hogan experiment, and it flopped miserably. What did we learn?
No, I mean, that the Browns don't have their future quarterback on the roster.
Are we ready to throw in the towel on DeShone Kizer, who was clearly probably not ready from the beginning of the season?
Roster other than Myles Garrett and Joe Thomas at this point. I mean, they are so bad. They're so bad, Brian. They're not even competitive. Like, I turn on the game Sundays, I don't even pay attention anymore. They're so bad. Honestly, I would much rather see this team be 5-1 right now and the entire team sit for the national anthem than I would watch them. Again, not only, it bothers me that, they don't stand for the national anthem. It bothers me a little bit. However, the thing that bothers me the most is them not being able to win football games. They stink.
Because at the end of the day, that's what we're rooting for. We're watching, hoping that we're going to see a product that is competitive, is successful, that gives your region pride, something of high standard to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I guess
the thing it's just there's nothing to look forward to. The one thing that would really get me is like when the Saints players kneeled the other day, the Saints were having a moment of silence for a police officer that was killed in action, and the players were taking a knee, which I think is absolute trash. That I don't support one bit. I don't believe in that peaceful protest at all. You're taking a moment of silence for someone in the community who's done a good job and has helped out the community, and you're sitting there taking a knee. I think it's absolute trash. For a while I had been on the movement. I didn't say I supported the movement. However, I agreed with the right to free speech, with being able to take a knee. However, it's not a movement I supported. However, it is a right to free speech. That's what I was getting at right there. I never said I agreed with it. It's like, the Michael Bennett video comes out, and where's the police brutality that he claimed, from the 3 white officers, and especially one of the officers was black and 2 were Hispanic, and he was acting suspiciously in the video, which was the reason for concern. It wasn't that he was just, they didn't single.
Lost you, Zach. Try it again. Talking about Michael Bennett. There's a lot of accusations at the beginning of stories And that's why it's smart to just take your time before you develop a really strong
Hello?
opinion on it. Hey, Zach, I was just saying that
How long ago did I lose you?
I introduced you to the show like 40 minutes ago. I don't know. That was the last I heard.
I was talking about Michael Bennett. That's what I say. I don't know where.
Yeah, I know. I was just kidding. I was pretending like the whole interview didn't happen. Yes. By the way, follow Zach on Twitter. He's at Z Baris. That's ZBARIS. Yeah, you were talking about Michael Bennett's original story versus what happened later once we had a chance to look at it.
The video didn't show anything like that. Now you've got Colin Kaepernick suing the NFL and suing the owners. Let's put it this way. I don't know why all these people are talking about Colin Kaepernick being supremely talented in this league. You know, he hasn't been good for 4 years since they were in the Super Bowl. Let's not forget he had that great season. The next year they went 8-8, and all their players retired. All the 49ers players retired. As I recall correctly, 2 years ago, Chip Kelly benched him for Blaine Gabbert, who stinks. And Colin Kaepernick didn't win any football games. He was terrible. And don't forget, last year they went 2-14 with him as a starter. He was awful.
Right.
I don't get Colin Kaepernick is not the quarterback he was 4 years ago.
Well, and he was a system quarterback with Jim Harbaugh, who went back to college because it's a type of game that doesn't translate to the NFL level the way that they were trying to. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things working in the favor here of common sense and rational behavior, but this has been turned by the Democratic Party into such a partisan thing. To the point where you get the president. Hold on a second. To the point where you get the president of the United States responding to this thing that the Democrats have pushed into sports through ESPN and through kneeling and during the national anthem. That you have the president of the United States jumping in, and it really has turned it into a reality show. It's a whole bunch of stupidity now. Just because someone has the right to do something doesn't mean that it's a smart move to make. I could do a lot of stupid stuff. Right now, in this moment, I could say a lot of stupid things. I'm going to try to choose not to because I don't think it's a smart plan. So, like I said, man, it's easy for Cleveland fans who are fed up with politics being crammed down our throats on the football field and looking at the product that the Browns are delivering us, for us to say, look, I'm going to opt out of this season. I don't care anymore that you're not giving me a reason to cheer, so I'm going to stop giving you my money. As a consumer, people have the ability to spend their time, which is the most valuable resource, and their money, which is their second most valuable. Time being more important because you can milk a sports fan over decades as opposed to, taking them to the cleaners once. But my point with Michael Bennett, Zach, was to just kind of say that what he claimed versus what the tape seemed to show, it gives all of us, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but it's loud as heck. I'm going to turn you down here for a second. But it gives all of us an opportunity to take a second and say, when a story happens or someone's telling me to think about something or I should react a certain way, I think I should take a little bit more time to make sure that my reaction is based on the facts as opposed to just an emotional reaction on how I think I'm supposed to react to it. And I think that's what you were getting at with the Michael Bennett thing, Zach.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And, the problem is with the situation is, yes, Michael Bennett's in there claiming one thing, claiming police brutality, which just didn't happen. You don't see that in the video. And I'm sorry, if it did happen, then he has a justification for his actions. But if there's nothing and you're just trying to stir up controversy, then, that's exactly what it is at that point. Another thing that bothers me, too, is I think Joe Thomas put it perfectly in the offseason. Here's the thing. I believe it is, when he said, he's like, Colin Kaepernick's not worth the headache that he brings to a franchise. Yes, there are backup quarterbacks that he's better than in the league, but he's not good enough to be a starter, and he's not worth the headache. Joe Thomas said that this offseason. He's just not. He's just not worth the headache that he brings to a franchise. And the amount of media scrutiny and attention that comes along with it.
This is a franchise that just got rid of... This is a franchise that had to just cut ties with Johnny Manziel for all of his antics. And some people can say, well, being drunk on a swan is different than standing up for racial justice. Well, the whole way that this argument is framed, it's based on nonsense. And nobody even knows what point is being argued because there's zero clarity in what you're talking about. I've seen it start to come together a little bit differently as the narrative has changed from protesting inequality to promoting equality. Okay, well, that is so vague and generic. What are we even talking about? That's one of my biggest complaints and concerns that I've had with Colin Kaepernick and taking a knee from day one. Then when pressed on it, he started rambling and not making sense.
I had been told, from what I heard, it was his Muslim girlfriend, turned him into basically he's a communist now.
Wearing Fidel Castro paraphernalia? Or was it Che Guevara or Castro?
Yeah, but he donated his shoe collection. He's become a communist. And he's an actual communist now. That's not something, I just found this out a week ago. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know that, and I've been hearing it now, and I was reading about it. I was like, okay, I didn't know he was a communist now.
Well, Zach, my point in this whole story, aside from, well, I have the right to protest. It's like Westboro Baptist Church. Well, I have the right to hold a sign that says God hates fags outside of this military funeral. Well, yeah, you have the right to.
Here's the thing.
Why
they have
would
the
you?
Right to do it. Do I agree with them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not do I agree with them. However, in this country, you do have the right to protest, and that's the thing. I completely disagree with the Westboro Baptist Church on everything they do. However, they've given you have the freedom to do that in this country, and that's one of the great things about this country is that you can do things like that. I don't agree with I don't agree with a lot of the protests going on. However, people protest, and that's a right that you have in this country.
Yeah, that's fine. And I don't have to spend my money or my time going to Westboro Baptist Church or buying a Westboro Baptist Church t-shirt. Just like I don't have to with the Cleveland Browns. Do you understand the concept? What's going on here? There has been this Marxist attempt to destroy everything good about this country. It could be Marxist, cultural Marxism, communism, socialism, all of these viruses, all of these ideologies that have never worked on the planet. It's the perfect thing to say to somebody who isn't succeeding in life, to blame it on someone else. I think Hitler did that to the Jews. I think it's very easy for anybody to just point and say, oh, okay, well, all of our problems must be those damn immigrants. Okay, and I can see where some of the snapback would be on President Trump deciding to want to build a wall and pointing out all of the problems that are associated with it. I think the reaction from the left has been completely overblown. I think that the completely disingenuous, selective outrage over sexual predators like Hillary Clinton to Bill Clinton and Harvey Weinstein. Okay, now you're going to tell me you're finding out that Hollywood has a woman problem, but you're wearing pussy hats at President Trump's inauguration. Okay, so it's just selective outrage when your politician isn't doing something. I don't like it. It's not consistent. It's just
here's the one thing
there's
that
Zach. Let me wrap this up because I'm kind of making a very wide-ranging point, and I do want to refocus it. I think that there are attempts by politicians, global politicians, and global financial interests. There are efforts underway to destroy and undermine everything great about this country. And when I see it happening and the useful idiots out there participating in it, I think we have to call attention to it, put the spotlight on it, press pause, and think about what is really at play here. What is this really about? What are we talking about? So my main point is if there's something that the NFL players or any professional athlete wants to do to give back to their community, I've got a hunch I'm going to support it if it's something rational and common sense. We all want to see people at Habitat for Humanity or giving Thanksgiving meals out or helping out at the local shelter, what have you. Nobody is against making your local community better. Everybody is for that. So if we're going to have some sort of argument or complaint about this nation and this country, we don't do it during the national anthem time. We certainly don't do it on Sundays during national anthem time. and we roll this into the communities, and you have positive conversations, and we're back to normal. But to say this is anything different other than Colin Kaepernick last year, a couple of people in between, and then when President Trump said something saying, I'm getting sick of seeing this during the anthem, now everybody needs to unite politically against him, it's completely disingenuous, selective outrage. I'm sick of it, and I really wish the athletes would pull this away and do something productive with their time, because just like Westboro Baptist Church, just because you can say something or do something doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So that's where I'm at there, Zach. And I don't know if you had any final thoughts on the topic, or if you wanted to move over to basketball.
Honestly, I'm just so frustrated with the NFL. I've barely spent any time watching it this year. I don't care that much. And it's a load of garbage anyway. I mean, the product's a load of crap. Especially if you're a Browns fan. The games aren't competitive. It's not fun to watch.
I agree. All right, well, let's talk about something that will be fun to watch. Cavs are predicted by many to get out of the Eastern Conference again, perhaps represent the East for a fourth consecutive NBA championship with LeBron James on the team. I'll tell you what, Zach, let's press pause for a second, take a 60-second timeout. I'll be right back, and we can get into the NBA, okay?
Perfect.
All right, perfect. All right, just a minute, everybody. I'll be right back in 60 seconds or so.